They won 6 Super Bowls. 6. In an era defined by parity, where dynasties were deemed impossible, they forged an empire so absolute, it defied logic. But what if the relentless pursuit of perfection wasn't just a strategy, but a pact? What if the echoes of their victories whisper not of glory, but of something far more chilling? Before the banners unfurled and the rings sparkled, New England was a franchise haunted, perpetually on the precipice of greatness only to tumble into mediocrity. A forgotten past, riddled with near misses and dashed hopes, lay like a barren field awaiting a tempest. Then came the winter of 2000, and with it, 2 figures who would reshape destiny, a taciturn coach named Bill Belichick, bearing a playbook of ancient, inscrutable wisdom, and a 6th-round draft pick, Tom Brady, whose unassuming exterior hid a will of iron forged in the crucible of absolute ambition. Belichick's arrival was not heralded by fanfare. Rather, it was a subtle, almost clandestine insertion into the fabric of the team. When he was hired, his introductory press conference lasted less than 10 minutes, featuring terse, non-committal answers that baffled reporters, a chilling preview of the guarded, impenetrable empire he was about to construct, a stark refusal to engage with the outside world, setting the tone for a fortress built on silence and unyielding purpose. The whispers began then, in the hallowed halls of Gillette, of a new way, a Patriot way, where the individual dissolved into the collective, where ego was a weakness, and every action served the singular, unblinking eye of victory. It was more than a system, it was a philosophy, a creed etched into the very soul of the franchise, demanding unwavering loyalty and an almost monastic devotion to the craft. The old curses and the specter of past failures were not merely dispelled, they were exorcised, replaced by a relentless, almost ritualistic pursuit of every conceivable advantage, every minuscule edge that could be sharpened and wielded. They didn't just rebuild, they transmuted, stripping away the frivolous, the emotional, the human, leaving only the bare, functional essence of a championship machine. The transformation was not immediate, but deliberate, a slow, methodical tightening of gears, a silent hum growing in intensity, promising an energy that would soon consume all in its path. The first dynasty was not born. It was forged in an icy crucible, an unexpected awakening that sent tremors through the league. From the improbable Super Bowl 36 victory against the Rams, a team of destiny seemingly thwarted by a young, unproven quarterback and a defense playing with an almost supernatural cohesion, the pattern emerged. Then came Super Bowls 38 and XXXIX, back-to-back triumphs that cemented their place not just as champions, but as an almost unstoppable force. Opponents arrived confident, only to be systematically dismantled, their strategies rendered obsolete, their strengths neutralized with surgical precision. It was not mere execution, it was a complete understanding of the game's hidden language, a predictive algorithm played out on grass. Brady, once the underdog, became the stoic orchestrator, his gaze unflinching, his arm an extension of the system's will. He was less a star quarterback and more the living embodiment of the Patriot way, a conduit for its relentless energy. Every practice, every film session, every snap was a step in a grand, unfolding narrative of conquest. The meticulousness was unsettling. No detail was too small, no opponent's tendency too obscure to be meticulously catalogued and exploited. The machine operated with flawless efficiency, turning pressure into opportunity, setbacks into fuel. This wasn't just football. It was a masterclass in psychological warfare, a slow, suffocating chokehold applied with elegant ruthlessness. The rest of the league watched, bewildered, as their strategies, their star players, and their very hope crumbled against an opponent that seemed to operate on a different plane of existence. Their victories were not just wins, they were pronouncements, declarations of a new order, each one a stone laid in the foundation of an unassailable empire built on the bedrock of unflinching, almost terrifying self-belief. Yet, even mythic empires face trials. The space between the initial 3 Super Bowls and the later 3 was not barren. It was a wilderness of near misses, of Super Bowl heartbreaks against the Giants, and of a mounting disquiet that suggested perhaps, just perhaps, the machine was not entirely impervious. This era was marked by the shadows of controversy, Spygate, Deflategate, incidents that, for many, stripped away any pretense of innocence, revealing a darker, more calculating side to their brilliance. But here is where the true nature of their power revealed itself. During the initial Spygate investigations, the NFL confirmed Belichick possessed highly detailed, handwritten notes on opponents' signals dating back to the late 1990s, revealing a long-standing, almost archaeological obsession with tactical advantage that predated his Patriots dynasty, suggesting a foresight and methodological dedication that bordered on the prescient. An almost inhuman capacity for strategic foresight. These scandals, rather than breaking them, forged them anew, hardening their resolve, deepening their commitment to their own insular world. They became the ultimate outsiders, the villains against whom the rest of the league could unite, yet they thrived on this antagonism. Each accusation, each fine, each whispered condemnation, was simply absorbed, processed, and transmuted into an even greater, more focused drive for victory. The losses, particularly the 2 Super Bowl defeats to Eli Manning and the Giants, were not mere failures. They were painful, public lessons, etched into the collective memory, analyzed with a cold, almost detached precision. The team learned, adapted, and grew more formidable, like a mythical beast that only becomes stronger when wounded. They were no longer just a dominant force, they were an entity hardened by fire, immune to the external noise, moving with an almost terrifying, singular purpose. This period cemented their reputation as ruthless, relentless, and undeniably effective, proving that even scrutiny and condemnation could not derail their inexorable march towards their ultimate goal. And so, the second dynasty rose, more potent, more refined than the first. Beginning with the improbable comeback against the Seahawks in Super Bowl 49, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat with a strategic gamble that defied conventional wisdom, they reasserted their dominance. Super Bowl 51, the 28-3 resurrection against the Falcons, was not merely a win, it was an act of pure, unadulterated will, a defiance of all odds, a moment where the very fabric of reality seemed to bend to their collective intent. Then came Super Bowl 53, a gritty, defensive masterpiece against the Rams, proving they could win ugly, win with precision, win any way the game demanded. This era cemented Brady's legend as the greatest, Belichick's as the most brilliant, but it also underscored the terrifying consistency of the Patriot way. The team rarely had the flashiest stars, often cycling through rosters with an almost detached efficiency, yet they consistently produced champions. For years, the Patriots facility had a specific, dimly lit film room, unofficially dubbed the Chamber, where coaches and a select few players would spend hours dissecting the minutiae of opponent tendencies, going far beyond typical scouting to uncover patterns others simply didn't perceive, almost like deciphering an ancient, forgotten code, revealing an insatiable hunger for knowledge and an unyielding belief in preparation above all else. They were never satisfied, never complacent. Each victory was merely a stepping stone, each Super Bowl a temporary validation before the gaze turned immediately to the next challenge, the next conquest. The feeling of inevitability when they took the field was palpable, a suffocating certainty that their opponents were not just playing against a football team, but against an historical force, a predetermined outcome. Their excellence became so routine it ceased to be surprising and started to feel unnatural. They were not merely winning games, they were fulfilling a prophecy, executing a grand design conceived in the shadows of Gillette Stadium. The Patriot Way ceased to be a mere methodology, it became a pervasive atmosphere, a consuming force. Players entered its orbit and were either transformed or ejected, unable to withstand its gravitational pull. The narrative of individual sacrifice for the collective good, of relentless self-improvement, was preached not just as a virtue, but as an absolute necessity for survival within the system. The price of perfection was absolute dedication, an almost monastic devotion, a willingness to shed all personal identity at the altar of victory. There were no joyous celebrations, no flamboyant displays, only a quiet, almost grim satisfaction, quickly supplanted by the cold calculation of the next objective. It was an engine of conquest running on precision, fueled by discipline, and driven by an unrelenting pursuit of perfection that became less a goal and more a consuming hunger, an insatiable void. They were relentless, always looking forward, never savoring, never resting. The human cost, the personal toll of such sustained, absolute excellence, remained largely unseen, swallowed by the monumental shadow of their success. It wasn't about the joy of the game. It was about the cold, stark reality of winning, of dominance, of creating a legacy that would echo through eternity. But such unblemished perfection often comes with a hidden cost, a bargain struck in the unseen depths, demanding more than just talent and hard work. It demands a piece of the soul, slowly, imperceptibly. The dynasty now lies fractured, its architects scattered, its reign seemingly concluded. But the echoes remain, vibrating with the memory of an empire built on precision, discipline, and an almost terrifying will. Their sustained excellence wasn't just a testament to greatness. It was a relentless, unblinking pursuit that demanded everything, leaving behind a legacy so absolute, it feels less like history and more like a warning. For what terrifying cost did they pay for such unprecedented, flawless dominion?